Hello and welcome to the 2011-2012 BCS Countdown Show. I'm your host, Paul Harris. Stick with us for the next few minutes as we go over the BCS Bowls and many others. Today we will be talking about the Iowa Hawkeyes versus the Oklahoma Sooners, K-State Wildcats versus the Arkansas Razorbacks, Stanford Cardinals versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys, Michigan Wolverines versus Virginia Tech Hokies, Ohio State Buckeyes versus the Florida Gators, and for the national championship game, the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the LSU Tigers. First game we will be talking about is the Insight Bowl, which is Iowa versus Oklahoma. Iowa comes into this game 7-5 and 4-4 in the Big Ten, and Oklahoma comes into this game 9-3 and overall and 6-3 in the Big 12. This game will be played in Tempe, Arizona on ESPN at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Few expected preseason number 1 Oklahoma to end up in the Insight Bowl, but the Sooners struggled down the stretch and will try to salvage another 10-win season. Iowa returns to Tempe, Arizona for the second consecutive year and will try to continue its streak of 3 straight bowl wins. The teams have played just once, with Oklahoma winning in 1979. For the passing leaders for Iowa, we have Vandenberg with 2,806 yards and 23 touchdowns, and for passing for Oklahoma we have Jones with 4,302 yards and 28 touchdowns. For rushing we have Coker with 1,384 yards and 15 touchdowns, and rushing for Oklahoma we have Whaley with 627 yards and 9 touchdowns. I look for Landry Jones in this game to be able to throw the ball along to Broyles, and he will throw a few touchdowns to him. I look for Oklahoma to beat Iowa by 1 touchdown. For our next game we have the K-State Wildcats versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. This is the AT&T Cotton Bowl, and it will be played in Arlington, Texas. Coverage will be on Fox on January 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. K-State Wildcats come into this game 10-2 overall and 7-2 in the Big 12. Arkansas Razorbacks come into this game 10-2 overall and 6-2 in the SEC. K-State finished its season 8th in the polls, and Arkansas finished its season 6th in the polls. Arkansas made a late-season BCS push, but came up short against number 1 LSU. The Razorbacks have the offense to challenge a lot of defenses, but are 3-7-1 all-time in the Cotton Bowl. K-State had championship aspirations after a 7-0 start, and also got BCS love. Ending a 3-game postseason losing streak is the next goal. For this game, we have passing leaders for K-State as Klein with 1,745 yards and 12 touchdowns. For Arkansas, we have Wilson with 3,422 yards with 22 touchdowns. Rushing, we have Klein with 1,999 yards, 26 touchdowns. And then rushing for Arkansas, we have 637 yards with 3 touchdowns. For this game, I look for it to be a close one. It's going to be number 6 Arkansas against number 8 number 8 K-State. So with this game, K-State, I look for K-State to win by possibly 3. Arkansas, I will control the game, but I look for Arkansas to have a late drive that will be foiled by K-State, and then K-State will come up with a last-second field goal to win it. Next game that we will be talking about is the Stanford Cardinals versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys. This is the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, and this is a BCS bowl, and its coverage is on ESPN, and it's on January 2nd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Stanford comes into this game 11-1 overall and 8-1 in the Pac-12, and then Oklahoma State comes into this game 11-1 overall and 8-1 in the Big 12. Stanford finished the season at number 4 in the polls, and Oklahoma State finished the season at 3 in the polls. Get your calculators ready. This one could break some records. 2 of the nation's top quarterbacks, Oklahoma State's Brandon Weeden and Stanford's Andrew Luck, square off in a battle of number 3 versus number 4. Weeden has 34 passing touchdowns this year. Luck has 35. Weeden has the best receiver in college football in Justin Blackman. Luck has the country's most productive tight end in Kobe Fleener. Stanford has one of the best front sevens in the nation. Oklahoma State's defense made a major statement in a 44-10 win over Oklahoma. Two very evenly matched teams are going to be taking place in this game. I look for it to be, as it said before, a contest between these two. It'll stay back-to-back. I look for touchdowns. I look for 2 or 3 touchdowns from both of these teams. I look for it to be a close enough game that Oklahoma State will come out and win this game by a field goal. Next game we will be talking about is my favorite. We have the Michigan Wolverines versus the Virginia Tech Hokies. This game will be the All-State Sugar Bowl, and it will be covered on ESPN, and it will be on January 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Surprise, surprise, Michigan was the Big Ten's surprise team, going 10-2 and Brady Hokies first year to make its first BCS game since 2007 Rose Bowl. Virginia Tech shockingly earned the ACC's first ever BCS at-large bid despite getting blown out by Clemson again in the league title game. The Wolverines' Denard Robinson and the Hokies' David Wilson provide the star power. For this game, Michigan comes into this at 10-2 overall and 6-2 in the Big 12. And then Virginia Tech comes in this game 11-2 overall and 7-1 in the ACC. And Michigan finished the season 13th in the nation, and Virginia Tech finished 11th in the nation. I am not taking this off of bias, but I look for Michigan to somewhat control the first half, and then Virginia Tech will come out, and we will either win by a field goal or a touchdown. The passing leaders for this game are Denard Robinson from Michigan with 2,056 yards and 18 touchdowns. And for Virginia Tech, there's Logan Thomas with 2,799 yards and 19 touchdowns. And rushing also for Michigan is Robinson with 1,163 yards and 16 touchdowns. And for Virginia Tech, we have David Wilson, who is the ACC Player of the Year, with 1,627 yards and 9 touchdowns. So as I said before, I look for Michigan to control the first half of it, and then Virginia Tech will come back, and they will win by either a touchdown or a late field goal. For the next game we have Ohio State versus Florida. This is the TaxSlayer.com Gator Bowl, and this will be on the coverage will be on ESPN2 January 2nd, and it will be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to be practically a home game for Florida because it is played in Jacksonville, so it's a home game for them. Ohio State comes in this game 6-6 overall and 3-5 in the Big Ten. Florida comes into this game 6-6 overall and 3-5 in the SEC. Both of these teams were unranked coming into this game. Call it the Urban Legends game. A matchup of disappointing 6-6 teams offers intrigue because it pits Urban Meyer's former team, Florida, against his future one, Ohio State. If you did not know, Urban Meyer was the head coach of Florida about 1 or 2 years ago, and he decided to retire, and then he came out of retirement, and he is now the head coach for Ohio State. So he will be playing against his former team. He will not be coaching this game, but he will be coaching next year for them. Not to mention a rematch of the 2007 BCS title game. Though Meyer won't be directly involved, Luke Fickell will lead the Buckeyes one last time as head coach. His presence will hang over every moment. I look for this game to happen with Florida controlling the first half, and then Ohio State will control most of the third quarter, and then I look for Florida to come back and possibly win by a field goal, but don't hold me against that. Ohio State may come back and win this by a touchdown, so we'll see on that. And finally, for our last game, we have the 2012 final game with Alabama Crimson Tide and versus the LSU Tigers. This is going to be the national championship game. Alabama comes into this game 11-1 overall and 7-1 in the SEC. LSU comes into this game 13-0 overall and 8-0 in the SEC. Alabama finished the season 2 in the polls, and LSU finished number 1. It's the rematch everybody has been talking about since since November 5th, when LSU squeaked past Alabama 9-6 in overtime. The rest of the country might not be overly thrilled but it's going to be one big SEC party in New Orleans on January 9th with the two best defensive teams in college football slugging it out one more time. For this game, it was played back on November 5th, same team, and LSU came out and won this game 9-6. My hopes on this game are that LSU and Alabama will not have another 9-6 games where there's all field goals and no touchdowns. I look for Alabama to come out and win this game by a field goal. LSU will control most of the first, second, and third quarter, but then Alabama will come back and they'll control the fourth quarter. For the leaders for Alabama, we have passing with A.J. McCarron at 2,400 yards and 16 touchdowns, and passing for LSU we have Jarrett Lee with 1,306 yards and 14 touchdowns. And then for rushing for Alabama, we have Trent Richardson with 1,583 yards and 20 touchdowns. And then rushing for LSU, we have Ford with 755 yards and 7 touchdowns. For the BCS Countdown Show, this is Paul Harris. Happy bowling, everybody.